Just a quick note before we dive in. Even if AI helped for some part of this video, you can trust that all the information provided is highly dependable. The insights are drawn from the most credible books, authors, and experts, focusing specifically on the principles of growing rich. Because of this carefully curated knowledge, this content is essentially crafted by an expert. You wake up, write a solid plan for the day, and sit at your desk. Then your inbox pings. A WhatsApp notification flashes. You react to the chaos, put out a few minor fires, and suddenly it's 5 p.m. The day is entirely gone. We treat our schedules like they expand infinitely, but life operates as a strict zero-sum game. There is a finite amount of action you can take in a day. Every minute spent reacting to a random message is a minute permanently subtracted from your actual goals. Procrastinating away 80% of your day on trivial work is a severe misallocation of a strictly limited resource. It actively burns the time required to build anything of value. Kevin O'Leary noticed a stark contrast in how time is spent when comparing ordinary business operators to historical titans. They operate on entirely different mathematical planes of focus. In the early 1990s, Steve Jobs utilized a strict productivity philosophy. He demanded that his team isolate the top 3 to 5 critical tasks they had to complete in the next 18 hours. Absolutely everything else was ignored. This chart shows the exact mathematical ratio Jobs used to survive: 80% signal, 20% noise. The signal is your mission-critical list. The noise is absolutely everything else trying to grab your attention. Johnny Ive spent years working alongside Jobs and observed that true focus requires saying no to things you think are phenomenal ideas. You reject them with every bone in your body, simply because you are committed to something else. Capturing the signal requires the painful, ruthless elimination of the noise. Adding more tasks to a color-coded list will only pull you further off track. Finding your signal requires reasoning from first principles. Instead of blindly adopting a trend, like starting a podcast because someone told you to, you ask basic questions. What do I have to say? Who is it for? Why does it matter? Programmer and essayist Paul Graham formulated a counterintuitive rule for finding those answers. You have to do things that do not scale. When Airbnb launched, the platform was filled with terrible photos. Instead of writing an automated mass email to users, the founders physically traveled to New York, knocked on doors, and took professional photographs of the apartments themselves. Mark Zuckerberg didn't launch Facebook globally on day one. He manually pitched individual students at Harvard. The founders of Stripe personally walked to their early clients' computers and installed the payment software by hand. Obsessing over mass scale too early creates a massive blind spot. Slow, manual labor forces you into direct contact with your users. That unscalable work generates the raw feedback necessary to locate your true signal. Once you find that signal, the environment around you will keep shifting. Maintaining your position requires massive, continuous experimentation. Jeff Bezos stated in his 2015 shareholder letter that his organization had to be intentionally designed as the best place on Earth to fail. Amazon lost hundreds of millions of dollars testing hardware, like the Fire Phone, but that same massive testing infrastructure allowed them to build Amazon Web Services, which now generates over $100 billion a year. This diagram shows the optimal performance indicator for innovation, the pure volume of experiments run. The goal isn't a high success rate. The goal is to aggressively pump ideas into the top of the funnel to see what survives the filter. Failure is pure data acquisition. The winner in any industry cycles through failures faster than their competitors to capture the correct answer first. Tomorrow morning, physically draw a line down a piece of paper. Put the 3 most important things you want to accomplish into the signal column. Put absolutely everything else into the noise column and let it go. These economic principles eventually crash into a much harder emotional reality. When a pet you've spent a decade with suddenly becomes frail and sick, the math of how you spent your time changes instantly. You realize that companionship, health, and a quiet weekend afternoon are incredibly fragile. The supply is heavily restricted, and there is no way to earn more of it back. We must use prioritization as a strict defense mechanism. It protects our profoundly limited time on Earth from being wasted on noise that never mattered in the first place.
If you find this valuable, please make sure to follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rise Race.